Hello and welcome to how to make a 2D virtual model part 2. Now in part 1 I demonstrated how I built all the animated features of my digital puppet, and in this part I'm going to show how I take all those animations and layers and rig them into a motion capture puppet in Adobe Character Animator. However, before we get to Adobe Character Animator, we have to layer everything up in the correct order in Adobe Photoshop, because Photoshop is the parent file that Adobe Character Animator uses. You can use Adobe Illustrator. I'm not a big fan of Adobe Illustrator though. There's a couple of reasons. Number one, I find it more laggy. You would think a vector program would run faster because it's using smaller size files. However, for example, you see this fin here. At the moment, that is just one ping image. Character Animator, I assume, recognizes this as one image. However, if it is a vector, it no longer one image. It's one, and then each of them strokes, those are another 2 layers, and then each of them dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5, 6, 7, 8. So in Illustrator, that would be recognized as 8 layers. And then when you've got the whole character put together, that's a lot of layers, and I think that contributes to it being a bit laggy. Now, I might be completely wrong about that. Feel free to point out if that's the case. However, in my experience, when I've got a character built in Illustrator and the same character built in Photoshop, the Photoshop one always works faster. There are also other reasons why I don't use Illustrator, and the main one is that when you make an animation in Adobe Animate, it is much easier just to export a PNG sequence than it is to get the same animation ready to bring into Adobe Illustrator. I'm not going to get into all that now because it's getting off the point. We've made all our layers. We now need to bring them into Photoshop. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. I'll show you the way that you could do it, and then I'm going to show you the way that I do it because I find it faster. So the way you could do it is to go to File, go to Script, go to Load Files into Stack, and then you find where you've saved all your files. So here's all the layers, and you select them all, and you press OK. And then what you'll find is that it'll take a while for this to load. So I'm going to pause it for a minute. Right, it's loaded. It took about 30 seconds, not too bad. And then attempt to automatically align source images. Let's try that. And then I'm going to press OK. Now, the reason I don't do it this way is that it seems to take ages. With this particular puppet, there's over 400 files. But sometimes I make puppets, you know, like this puppet is a fish, so it doesn't have arms and legs and lots of different hand shapes. And as I mentioned in part 1, I've got a lot more animations to make. So oftentimes I can have like thousands of layers. And if we do it this way, I might as well go off, make a cup of tea and watch a TV program before it finishes uploading everything. So I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to show you the way I do it. So I'm going to press Escape, and the way I do it, which is still not the fastest, but I think is the fastest way I've found, is first of all I will open up the first layer, and I'm going to press cancel because I've already got it open. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a folder. Don't you hate it when the thumbnails disappear? I mean, it drives me insane. Anyway, I open up a folder and I locate where I've exported all the PNG sequence to. And I'm going to select everything. So select the first frame, and then I'll press Shift and select the last frame, and then make sure I go back up to the first frame, and I'm going to drag that onto the timeline. Now the only problem here is that you've got to press enter for each one of these, but the layers do seem to come onto the screen as quickly as you can press the enter button. So I'll just tap away at it like I'm drumming on the keyboard. But whilst this might, you know, take a moment to do, it is a hell of a lot faster than the file stacking technique that I was showing you before. So I'm going to pause it and I'll come back to you when this is ready. Right, and that is everything loaded in. And also, if I remember right, I might not be correct in this, but if I remember right, when you stack it in, it does it the reverse way around. So the bottom layer here is 2, but when you file stack it, the top layer will be 2, which means all the files are back to front. Then you'd have to rearrange them, and that's more work. Whereas when you do it in this technique, it drops it in the order that I want it. Now, I realise there is probably a much more efficient way of doing it. I haven't found it, so if you do know, feel free to let me know in the comments below. I would love to know a quicker way. Though this doesn't take long. It's no hardship. It's literally a couple of minutes. And as I say, the file stacking approach takes a lot longer. That's why I don't use it. Also, the back to front issue. But yes, I do realise this is perhaps a low techie approach. But it works fine for me. It's no hardship. And I know the only thing I know that someone is probably going to suggest is creating an action. But the problem with the action is that you would have to, you know, it'd be like file, place 2, but then you need it to go along to the next one and the next one. So how, you know, if you do an action, it's just going to keep going back to that one and that one. I don't know. If you can think of a better technique, let me know. This works fine for me. I don't think it's any hardship. So this is my advice for how to do it. Right, so anyway, that's the first part. That's chapter 1, you know, how to import your layer files. Right, so we've got all our layers in Photoshop. Now we've got to organise those layers into folders that are required for rigging in Adobe Character Animator. First of all, I'm going to select all these layers. So select the first one, press Shift and select the last one that you can see is a smart file. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to rasterify them layers. Now the smart object is really good if you want to, you know, bury things inside of a layer, or if you want to resize a layer but retain the resolution quality. But with Adobe Character Animator, we want to keep the file size down as much as possible. So I'm just rasterizing those images. Now the next thing is actually this puppet is not going to be, what's that? That should be there. This puppet is actually going to be an unusual build. It's not a typical build. A typical build will be a humanoid character, head, arms, legs, hands and all of that. But a fish is got a totally different anatomy. So I'm going to have to be a bit creative with my rigging. Hopefully you find it interesting. If you're not interested in this, don't disappear, because later on in the video I will be going into how I rig my parallax faces in Adobe Character Animator to create a more advanced looking puppet. So if you don't want to follow this bit, just check out the chapters and skip ahead. But if you like myself and you do like seeing how other people work and looking behind the scenes and whatnot, then yeah, follow what I'm doing. I hope you find it interesting. And as always, if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below and I will always get back to you ASAP. Hopefully within the same day, but there is a time difference. I'm here in the UK, a lot of people in the US or the other side of the world as well. And so, you know, I might miss you. I might be in bed when you send a comment, but I will get back to you as soon as I see that comment, you know, very shortly. Anyway, let's get started. Like I said, normally you would set the first thing you would do is select all your files and then Control G. If you're using a PC, I don't know what it is for a Mac. I never use a Mac. Double click. I'm going to go plus and I'm going to call it puppet. Now that plus, incidentally, anything you add a plus to, when you bring it into Character Animator, it's going to make it an independent layer, which means it's not connected to any other layer and it's not influenced by any other layer unless it's within another. Anyway, let's not get into that. It makes it independent. Right. Normally now I will create a head and a body layer, but as you can see, we don't really have a body. I know the fish has this body here, but for it to function the way I want it to function, we're going to class all this as one entity that my motion capture will later on control, because I want it to go left, right, up, down, rotate, and I'm going to control all that with my head movement. So I'm going to call this head, and I'm going to create a body that isn't going to be seen, but it's going to be used. You'll see what I mean in a moment. Right, make sure both of them folders are within that puppet folder. And body, I'm going to create a shape, because this is what is going to be anchored, and this is what the fish is going to pivot from, and that's going to help me control, you know, like I just said, up, down, left, right, all that. So I've got the body there. I might move it later on and adjust it, but for the moment that's where it's going. And I'm going to turn the opacity right down because we do not want to see it. Right, now, again and again, as I've said, this is not a typical build, so I'm going to be doing lots of, you know, back and forth experimenting. So I'll cut out a lot of it, I think, because you don't need to watch me for hours figuring it out. And when I edit this video together, I'll try and keep in any parts that you might find interesting. So the first thing I'm going to do before I start figuring out what parts I want to break up into different parallax sections is I'm just going to get the mouth, the eyebrows and the eyelids rigged. So I'm going to turn off any layers that I don't need to see for the moment. Right, that should be all the mouths. So I'm going to group them, and we need that to be independent because we don't want the mouth parallaxing around and being attached to the face, welded to the face, because otherwise it's going to pull the face all out of place and whatnot. So we want it to be independent so it can move around the face, but it will also belong to the parent layer, so it will move with the overall movement. If that's confusing, don't worry, I'll explain properly later when I can show instead of telling it. I'll get rid of that. Eyes. I've obviously missed a couple there, just to make sure I've got everything. I'm going to group them. I'm going to call this the left eye. Now you might be thinking, why am I calling it the left eye? When, from part 1, you might remember that this is the eye which is animated. And you might be thinking, well, that's on the right hand side of the screen. You idiot. That's not the left eye. Well, the way that Character Animator works, it says from the character's perspective. And I'll tell you what, it's completely buggered up my sense of left and right. You know, anyone asks, because I've been working in Character Animator for years, and I'm always working from the character's perspective. My instant recall, if someone says left or right, like if I'm driving a car, I go the wrong direction. So, you know, the dangers of working with Adobe Character Animator. There's some eyes missing there. Hang on. Drag them in. Right. So let's start with the eyebrows first again. I'm going to group it. Again, independent because it's going to be a parallax layer. And it's the left eyebrow, and you do need to call it left eyebrow because Character Animator will automatically tag that as the left eyebrow when you bring it in. It's one less thing for you to have to remember to do. Now, as you may recall, there are 6 frames to every one of these folds. Now you might also be questioning, why 6 frames? Why not, you know, some of the mouths have maybe 15 frames or 2 frames? You know, because everything is a little bit different. Well, the reason is I did used to do that, but when I group layers together in Adobe Character Animator and create them as a trigger, if one say the mouth is 6 frames, but the eyebrow is 4 frames, what happens is, if when you trigger the animation, the eyebrow would disappear when it gets to frame 5 and 6. There are ways around that. You can create replays, but it's just creating a whole lot more work. So I just create everything in, you know, 6 frames. And if I do need something where I need a different frame, like the mouth, for example, sometimes I might have a laughing mouth, but I want to have the eyebrows in and that, then I will use the replay approach. but that's just an explanation as to why they all have 6 frames. So anyway, 6 frames. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, group. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, group. Now I'm going to do this for everything. I'm going to pause it and come back to you. Right, so as you can see, I've got my 9 groups there. Couple of things I need to do. First of all, I need to name them, and instead of me going through and trying to figure out what that mess of images is, I'm just going to go back into animate, and because it would have rendered out in this order, so arch, raise, straight, mad, cross, you know, that's the order that it's going to be here, so that's what I need to name them in. So I'm going to pause it and I'll come back in a second. Right, I've got more name, but I'm still not finished. First of all, I need to create the default layer. So the first frame is the default. So basically that's the one that we see, and then, you know, these are going to each be cycle layers. So we don't need the first frame on there because, you know, it'll just be playing that same frame that is already there. You want it to go straight into the animation. Now that means I need to go through all the other frames and just delete off the first one of each one, because each of those will be the default first frame, which is just the, you know, the eyebrow in its default state. So there's no animation to it. Right, I need to duplicate this group, and I'm going to call it right eyebrow. And now I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to move it across. I'll place it properly later on. But basically this just means, what this saves me doing is having to go through and name everything and just do what you saw me do then. There wasn't too many with the eyebrows, it wouldn't have taken me a long time, but you know, every minute counts, and sometimes with the eyes you can have loads and loads of layers and whatnot. The only thing you got to remember is to name it eyebrow. And the only other thing you need to remember later on is the eye, is when you flip that, you need to change anything to say. So left pupil, left eyeball, left eye. When you, in the duplicated version, you're going to have to change it to right eyeball, right eye. Anyway, I'll show you that when I get to it. However, that said, there is no need for you to see me do all of this again for the eyes and the mouth. So I'm going to pause it, and I'm going to come back when I've got all that done. Hello, and I'm back. Right, as you can see, if you look on the left hand side of my screen here, there you go, I'm getting it messed up already. As I explained earlier, my left and right is all screwed up because of working with Adobe Character Animator. On the right hand side of the screen here is all the different layers and folders. So I'm just going to walk you through very quickly what I've done. I've got my head folder, and in there I've got my mouth set up. Now in mouth, first of all you have your visamins for your lip syncing. So A, E, D, S, R, F, L, M, O and W. When you do the W, you need to make sure you put that little abbreviation in, otherwise it doesn't automatically assign when you bring it into Adobe Character Animator. Embedded in each of them folders are my cycle layers for the animations, which when we get into Character Animator later, I will add a cycle layer trigger to them, but that's further down the line. Then you got a neutral, which is obviously your neutral mouth, but buried within that are all your expressive mouths. Also, I duplicate all of these, or the visamins, and I bring them in as well. The reason for that is so that I can have them in my swap set. I'm not going to get into that at the moment, but if you want to know the importance of setting up an advanced mouth swap set system, if you look in our library of videos, you'll see that I did a tutorial just the other week for how to animate with Adobe Character Animator, and in that I explain my whole setup. I might even cover it again in this video, but if you want to go out and find it right now, look up my Adobe Character Animator tutorial, 2 hours long, but in there is chapters, and just look for the chapter that talks about the mouth rigging, and it'll explain why it's important to double up and have your lip sync visamins in your swap set. So yeah, I got them. I've got everything broken down. Those are all my mouths. No, sorry, those are all my jaws. Now the thing is with the jaw, in fact I haven't finished putting them into files yet, so into folders, sorry. So I'll do that in a minute. But I'll be able to add a finger, like in Adobe Character Animator, I can make that jaw move in time to your lip syncing. So as you're talking, it recognises the cadence of your voice and it'll move the jaw up and down in relation, just to give it a more advanced look. However, when I trigger my mouth expressions, that jaw isn't going to move because it's not going to be hearing a voice to go with it. So in which case, I've got a manual circulars where the jaw moves up and down. So I'll put both the jaw moving and the mouth action, and the jaw movement that fits best with the mouth action, because some of them drop down, some of them go wide, some of them drop down further. So I'll assign them with the correct one. Again, you'll see later on, I'll show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do next is just duplicate them layers that I mentioned. Obviously I already did that with the eyebrows, so I'm going to put that into place. I'm going to move that over to there a bit more. And then the eye layer, I'm going to duplicate, rename it right eye, edit, transform, flip horizontal. Get them moved across. I want that left eye to be over the right eye, so if for any reason during the parallax it comes over, it's going to overlap it in the right direction. However, I don't think it will do, so it's not too much of an issue. Does that eye need to go over anymore? I'll tweak that later on. Also, these I call this nose because when this comes into Adobe Character Animator, it's going to recognise that as a nose, and it's going to add it to the parallax. And that's a handy little trick if you want to get anything moving around the face and add it to the parallax. Just put them inside the nose layer. But if you can't for any reason, because it's layered over something else, I'll show you when we get into Character Animator how you can get around that issue. But for the moment, I'm just looking. I think we've got everything set up. We've got the hands. I've got to make sure that's at the very top. So this one here, I'll be able to bring it over the face when needed. The other one is behind the body. The torso, I'm going to mask that down onto that one there. These I've got tagged as eyebrows because I want them to be controllable as eyebrows. But I don't want them to go over that. So this line, I'm going to have to bring underneath those eyebrows. Let's find the torso. Bring it to there. The fin. I still haven't done that animation properly yet. I'll go back and sort that and add that in a bit. I think that is everything. As I mentioned in part 1, I'm going to sort the bubble animation in Character Animator itself. Anything that is going to be parallax, it's got the little plus on it, so it's independent. But everything is probably going to anchor to the torso body layer. And these need to match to the body layer. So let me just make sure. Outline for body. Yeah, so I'll be able to grab that one, and that one, and mask them all to the torso. Now, one of the issues with Adobe Character Animator, which I've been mentioning to the beta team for ages, is something that will be handy is if you could, for example, take this layer and mask it to that layer. Now that is something that you can do in a program like 2D Live or Live 2D, whichever way around it is. But annoyingly in Adobe Character Animator, you've got to have your layers directly above the layer that it is masking to. I'm hoping in the future that changes, because that has caused me no end of headaches in the past. And it will be really handy to be able to select whatever layer you want and you know, mask it to a chosen layer. Because or even another option is to be able to create a ghost layer which you could turn the opacity down on. But the problem is, at the moment, if you mask to a layer with the opacity turned down, the layer that you're masking also has its opacity turned down, so it's a bit of a headache. If you run into any issues with that, feel free to get in touch with me, and I might be able to give you some advice at ways I've gotten around it in the past. Right, anyway, so I think at the moment everything is kind of layered up as I want it in Adobe Photoshop, and now I'm going to bring this file into Adobe Character Animator. I know for a fact I'm going to be going back and forth a million times because that's just part of the process, but you can join me as I'm doing that and see how it gets done. Right, anyway, let's get into Character Animator. Right, we're now in Adobe Character Animator. Incidentally, when you appear on the home screen, this little fella here called Stardust the Unicorn is one that I made a couple of years ago. I'm very proud to see it on the Adobe Character Animator homepage. In fact, if you went in to see more, you'll find a couple more puppets that we've made. In fact, let's have a quick look in there. Go to the Pro Puppets, and you should see at the top of the list is the Bambies, which is one of our partners here at Tayaki Studios, and we've got Bambies made in iClone, or Unreal, VR Chat, and as you can see here, also for Adobe Character Animator. So if you want to get hold of one of our characters and see how it works and back engineer it, they are here to download. They are completely free, and I have a tutorial showing you how to use them. So if you've never used Adobe Character Animator before and you want to get into using Adobe Character Animator, check out that tutorial, download one of these Bambies, and it's a perfect opportunity to learn. Also, we do have a competition running. I mean, it's currently the end of December 2022, and the contest is going to finish on January 2nd 2023. So if you're seeing this after that point, then I'm afraid the competition is over. However, if you see it before then, all you need to do is download a Bambi, make an animation, upload it somewhere online, YouTube or wherever. Let us know by hashtagging Bambies, or send us a message on Discord or by email, whichever, or then put a comment in this video below. Let us know, and you'll be in the draw, and we'll be picking 3 people to randomly give a 1-year subscription to Adobe CC. Now, that's not just for Adobe Character Animator, that's, you know, the entire Adobe CC suite, so you're getting After Effects, Photoshop, Animate, everything. Anyway, that's a little reminder, you know, parish notice done. Let's get back to Adobe Character Animator. So let's get started. First of all, we want to create a new program. So new project, fish, and there is the PSD folder we just gotten ready. So we're going to go save. Actually, no, we're going to call this CH because we're going to have a bunch of saves for this. I'm going to call it Tayaki fish, and I'm going to call it 1.1 because I always like to back up my files, so, you know, eventually I'll have 1.2, 1.3, and then if there's any major changes to it later on, it'll be like 2.1 and so forth. I'm going to put save. Oh, and there I am. Howdy. And we are going to go over to file now, and we're going to go to import. Oh, that's a picture of my granddad there. Don't know why that popped up. 1 second. Right, locate where your Photoshop file is saved to and go import. Right, so we're going to go to project and we're going to double click on that, and that is going to bring up our little cartoon character here, and this is where we're going to have to start, you know, assigning all the actions and getting this rig all set up so this character works properly. Right, first of all, let's just get this anchored. So this is like where it's going to pivot from. No, click off, and normally it's down in the body, not over the head. So let's pretend there's a human body, upper body there. I'm going to pop this here, Again, this is all trial and error. This isn't set up like a normal puppet. So yeah, like anything, it's nice, you know generally what you gotta do, but a lot of times when it comes to coding, rigging, animating, it's all about trying things out and learning. So don't get too dismayed if it takes a while or a few attempts to get things right. That's just the way things go. So what should we do first? Right, let's start getting this thing put together. Now, first of all, I'm just thinking, because obviously this is set up a little different than normal, as I've said a million times. I know, I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking out loud here. Right, I'm going to need the jaw, so the lower face, the mouth, and the eyes all to work as I would normally set up a face. And I need the rest of it to operate as a body kind of would do. So, what I need to do is go back into Photoshop. Incidentally, if you look at the left hand side of the screen, when you click on your imported file, you'll see this PS icon show up. If you click on that, it will open up the source file in Photoshop, unless you're using Illustrator, and you'll be in AI instead. So I'm going to click on that, and there it pops. Right, so mouth, eyebrows, and mouth, eyebrows, eyes, nose, jaw, and I'm just trying to think now. Them back eyebrows I'm going to want separate. So I'm going to group these, and I'm going to call this face. Yeah, I'm going to call it face. But because they're all independent, they might need an anchor point within the group. So I am going to create one. I'm going to call it anchor. This one isn't independent. And I'm just going to do this. Turn the opacity right down. Because the reason it's important to figure this out first, if I set up all the animations and all the rig and then decide later on to have done this, everything in these files that I will have set up when I go back into Character Animator will be wiped out. So I need to make sure that the order is correct straight away. Once it is saved and we go back into Character Animator, it will update. Right, I'm going to click on the goldfish, and here are the setup behaviours. Now what it calls face is what I always use to control the body sensitivity and controls and whatnot. So I'm just going to rename this to mocap body, and then face I'm going to add the head controller, so that when the motion capture comes on it knows to follow my head movements. And then I'm going to add a face behavior, and I'm going to leave everything as it is apart from head position strength. I'm going to turn that down to nothing at the moment, because really all I want to control on this is the parallax, the head tilt, and the eyebrow strength. Though I think the eyebrow strength. Oh yeah, so do I need these moving in the background? I was going to have them go up and down, but I don't think I need to now. I'll just group them as one layer. So if I go back into Photoshop and find that, where is it? Eyebrows. I'm going to take the... I'm just going to put left. One less thing, to add parallax to. I'm just going to change that to brows, otherwise the computer might pick it up as eyebrows and automatically tag it. But I do want them moving, so I'm going to make that layer independent. Save it. And then come back into Character Animator. Now before I go any further, I do just want to say, I know this might be a little bit confusing, especially if you've never used Adobe Character Animator before. This is a more advanced and unusual build, so hopefully this is something that some creators out there will find interesting. But if you do want to learn how to rig a puppet in Adobe Character Animator, I would highly recommend checking out OK Samurai's YouTube channel. Now, OK Samurai's channel belongs to a man called Dave Werner, who works for Adobe Character Animator. He's part of the team that promotes Adobe Character Animator, and it just so happens that he started promoting on his own channel on YouTube, and then it got so popular that it got adopted as the official Adobe Character Animator channel. So look up for OK Samurai, and he has a lot of videos on there about how to build a puppet from scratch. As I say, what I'm doing right now is a much more, you know, advanced build, and it's not a normal build. But if you have any questions about anything I'm doing, just time tag in the comment below and say, why did you do this? You know, if anything isn't clear, just ask and I will be happy to give you a detailed reply, or maybe even make a video explaining the minutiae of the particular thing that you want to know about. Anyway, now I've got the face set up where I want it to be, and I'm just going to actually rename that just so I can easily keep track of everything later on when I'm setting up the parallax perimeters. Right, the first thing I'm going to do is just set up the masking. So we got torso, and I'm going to go to create clipping mask, and as I said, it's going to clip to the layer underneath. Gradient clipping mask, and I might actually have to bring that gradient inside of that folder. See, because it's added it everywhere now. But as I mentioned earlier, you've got limited control on what you can mask to. So yeah, I'm going to have to go back into the Photoshop file. I'm going to have to find that gradient, and I'm going to have to bring it inside the browse folder, and I'm going to have to group these two together and call them, I'll just call them default. And does that gradient need, I don't think that needs to be independent anymore, so I'm going to turn that off. But I'll be able to mask to that layer while the parent layer masks down to the torso. Let's just save. I hope this isn't too confusing. Like I say, I'll do my best to clarify exactly what I'm doing. Again, feel free to skip ahead. In a bit I'm going to be talking about adding behaviors, then after that swapsets, followed by the parallax settings setup, and then some replays, and also I'm going to animate them bubbles and fins. So if this isn't, you know, anything you feel like you need to know, skip ahead. You will not offend me. Anyway, so now that is updated, so I'm going to find browse, and this gradient, I'm going to clip it. So now it should only be clipped to that. Doesn't look very dark though, does it? So let's go back into Photoshop. I'm sorry, there's a lot of back and forth. That's just the nature of the beast. I'm just going to bring that down a bit more. I'm going to save it. Go back into Photoshop, Character Animator. Right, and that is now in there. I don't really need this bottom bit, do I? I'm going to go and cut that off. I'm just going to pause it for a second. Right, yeah, so I've just trimmed that down a bit. Right, and I think that's it. That's the mask. That's all the masking I need doing. What I need to set up next is the parallax. I'm going to render this section out, and we'll come to that next. Right, what we need to do next is start adding all the behaviors to the puppet, which control, you know, the triggers and other actions and whatnot, the functionality. Right, so first of all, I'm going to add the cycle layers. So let's find, so the cycle layers and the mouth, the eyebrows, everything that we animated in Adobe Animate. Find the face, and most of it will have the same setup apart from the lip sync vitamins. So get all them eyebrows, pupil, and the mouth, the neutral ones. I'm going to select all of them. So I'll select the first one, hold my finger down on shift, select the next one, control, and hold my finger down on shift, select that one, control, shift, oh, not that one, control, shift and click on the left mouse button, control, shift, left mouse click. I don't need to repeat that every single time, do I? I think you got it, and if you don't, rewind and have a listen again. Right, so first thing I'm going to tick over on the right hand side of the screen where it says hide others in group when triggered. So if I got an eyebrow triggering and it's like rising up, I want it to get rid of the default one whilst that is in action. So I'm going to tag that. Now you don't do this all the time, it just depends on what you're animating. Also, as I said earlier, I've got the duplicated vitamins for the lip syncing, so we want to unclick those. So I'm going to hold my finger down on control. Actually no, I need to, what am I doing? Just double click on these to get them off. Sometimes it can take a short while just because we've got so many layers selected. I've also clicked off the chin that was automatically assigned as well as the eyebrow. I'll sort that out properly in a minute. Right now I've got all these selected and that's all sorted out. I'm going to go down to behaviors. I'm going to hit this little plus icon and I'm going to go to cycle layers. And I'm going to go for when triggered, so you know when you hit the button. My layers are from bottom to top, so I need to change that from bottom to top, and I need to pick forward and reverse and hold on last layer. And the reason for that is that forward and reverse means that when you take your finger off the trigger, it animates back out of it. So let's say the mouth is opening, so the mouth will open, and then when you take the your finger off the trigger, it will reverse the cycle layer so that you'll see the mouth close. And also, whilst you've got your finger on the trigger, it will hold on the last frame. It will hold on the last frame, and when you take your finger off, it will reverse out. Now, this is the reason why the lip syncing vitamin layers are set up slightly differently. So I'm going to select them now. And this time you can leave them all on. In fact, you want to make sure they are all there. So L, F, you know, yep, they're all there. Neutral, yep, that's there. I never assign small or surprise because when you're talking, it seems to mistake small all the time. So it'll just randomly small. Same for surprise. So I never ever tag them in. Right, and now I'm going to go down. Add cycle layers to these as well. This is what creates the fluid, you know, mouth look. So it's not like Hanna-Barbera style where it's just one single frame snapping in and out. You know, it's more, you can see in the mouth animate into the lip sync a little bit more. But, you know, we don't want it on forward and reverse. We only want it on hold last layer. Now, the reason you don't want it on forward and reverse is that when you're talking, you are rapidly firing off a bunch of E, L, D, F, you know, on all those. And that's why in part 1 I explained it was important to use an ease that goes straight in to the animation. So you're seeing a little bit of the animation of the mouth opening, but from the first frame that you see, it should be recognizable as an A or a D or a L or a F. Because if you're too slow with your ease and you're not going to be able to recognize the shape until you get to the end frames, it might have already skipped ahead to the next vitamin. So that's why it's important to be able to jump straight into the, you know, the shape. And also you don't want it to reverse because if you got the reverse on, it will actually force that reverse until it goes on to the next mouth shape, and that will just mess up your whole, quality and accuracy of the lip syncing. So you don't want forward and reverse. You do want it to hold whilst it is holding that lip sync shape. And the only other difference is, this is an important one, stop immediately. So what that means is, if you're on an at mouth but the cycle layer hasn't finished yet, but the lip sync is already moved on to the E, you want it to stop using the A and go straight into the E. So you want it to stop immediately and go into the next trigger. Now you don't want that with these, because these ones are all set up for expressions and you're holding it, and then you want it to, because if I take my finger off when I'm on, like say that, it won't, and you got it on stop immediately, it won't reverse out, it'll just stop and it'll be more jarring, where if you let cycle finish, it'll reverse out. I hope this all makes sense, but this is what can give your character a more fluid, advanced look. If any of that doesn't make sense, again, timestamp this moment and say, this did not make sense, can you please elaborate it? And I will be happy to do so. Right, next we're going to sort out the jaw. So let's close these down and find it. Right, jaw. Have that there. This, basically what this does is a bone tool. It's just so that anything along here doesn't move. And then down here, I'm going to tag that as a jaw behavior. So what happens there is that as you're talking, this line is going to move up and down, so it will move the jaw. However, I do need to sort this out into proper layers, because I've forgotten to do that. I think though I'm going to have to add this to the default jaw and make sure it doesn't affect any of the animated jaw. So I'm just going to pause it for a second, get this sorted out, and then I'll be back. Right, so I got these as, in fact I better add the cycle layers to them as well. So cycle layer, same as before. And I will need to make swapsets for all of those in a minute, but we'll get to that a little bit further down the line. Right, so I'm going to take this, copy them, edit, cut, and I'm going to pop that on there, because I don't want this affecting them, because they're only going to be used when I'm manually controlling how the jaw is moving, so I don't want it affected by the lip sync. Hopefully that works okay. It's one of those that later on I'll test it out, and if it doesn't work I'll come back and adjust it. I've got an anchor point here as well, just so it's got something. Mind you saying that, I've got these here, so I don't really need that, do I? So I'll delete that off. And when you're setting up the jaw, what you got to remember to do is click on your puppet file and then look over here at your lip sync and change jaw movement to 10%, because if it's at 100 it's going to go massively over the top. If for any reason any of the lip syncs don't seem to be moving as you think they should be, or one of them is jarring, you can manually adjust the strength of how much they move up and down with the lip syncing here. And jaw handles too, so I don't want that one affected, so I'll take that off there. I only want it on that one there. This top folder is going to control it moving around the parallax, so I'm going to go add face, face again. I'm going to add a nose, because I'm going to use the nose parallax to control this, and then I'm going to put everything to 0% apart from the parallax. The parallax I'm going to, as a default, I'm going to put to 200, but as this is just for moving the jaw around, we don't need any of the other things, so we don't need the eyebrows or the eyelid strength, so all of that can get turned off basically. Tilt, I don't think I want any tilt in it. It seems like a good idea, but the problem is when you got the face straight on and it's tilting, it doesn't look right. I mean, I might play around with it later on, but at the moment, all I really want is that parallax. I think in the future, Adobe will probably add a behavior that is just for the parallax that you can add onto any feature. But for the moment, you need to add on the face, turn everything off, tag it as a head and also tag it as a nose. Though in some instances, you might want to tag it as an eye or a mouth, depending on, you know, what you've got. You know, it might be a pair of glasses, you might tag it an eye or whatnot. But anyway, normally most of the time I tag it as a nose. Seems to be the best. Right, so that's that done. Right, what I'm going to do next is turn these into triggers, because at the moment when we go into the puppet, they're all going to be live and showing, and we only want them to show when they're triggered. So I'm going to go to jaw and I'm going to right click and I'm going to create a swap set, and I'm going to turn off the default and I'm going to click that off. And then in my control panel, which I normally keep on my second monitor, I'm going to drag these over and I'm going to pop them down there. Later on I'll create thumbnails for these so that I know exactly what. Mind you saying that, most of the time when I use them and I do it in the timeline, I'm reading what they are anyway, which I'll demonstrate later. So I never really ever use these. Are more for if you're performing in real time. Anyway, so I've got them there. Let's get all the other ones done as well while we're at it. So let's get the eyebrows done. So right click, swap set. I'm going to call that eyebrows. Again, delete the default, turn that off. And then these left ones, because I want to control them both at the same time, I'm going to drag that one and embed it into it. If you click on each of these now, you see that it's got the left and the right eyebrow. And if I drag these over here, later on, when I click on those, it'll trigger that eyebrow animation. And now let's do it for the eyelids. And in a second, I'll show you how to do an expression set. So let's have a look what we got. These are the pupils, so let's do that first. Swapset, pupil triggers, and that off, turn that off, drag that across. You don't need to watch me doing all this, so I'm going to pause it and I'll update you in a second. Right, so I got them all set up, and if we look in the control panel, you can see I've got all my mouths, eyelids, eyebrows, and that's a jaw, which really they don't need to be on there because you wouldn't animate them independently, so I'm going to take them off. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some expressions, which is where I group all these together. So I'm going to go plus, I'm going to create a blank swap set, and I'm going to call it expressions, and I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to put the mouth at the top. I'm just putting them in order of importance of when I use them. So expressions, what expressions can we use? Well, first of all, each of these mouths is an expression that we might use. So I'll put that in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my eyebrows. And I'm going to think, right, irked. So if you're annoyed, what expression might you use? So a bit of a fed up look. So I think straight eyebrows. Whistle. So that's kind of impressed. I'm going to go with arch. Smirk. I'm also going to go for arch. Puzzled. I'm going to go for a bit sad. Sly grin. I'm going to go for asked again. Jaw drop. I'm going to go for shocked. Yikes. It's similar to a similar to jaw drop, so I'm going to go for raise, which is just a little bit lower. And also I don't want them too close together, so I'm going to move that down. Small is a bit like surprised, I think. Huh is kind of confused, so I think I'm going to put like one eyebrow, so what's that, the right eyebrow down and the left eyebrow up. Is, I'm not too sure about that one. Go arch, arch. Sometimes when you see them all together, you change them. Sada is that one. Sad is that one. Straight. That one. Happy is a bigger one than smile. Grin. We'll go for arched. Surprise, we'll go for shocked. So where is it? Shock, shock. Smile 2, we'll go for raise. And small 1, we'll go for arched. These little icons here indicate that a couple of these haven't been used. So unimpressed. In fact, we'll take the arched off of I'm going to put the unimpressed on there instead. And what else? We've got cross. I don't know if I made a cross mouth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put sad in again. I'm going to rename that unhappy. And then I'm going to use the cross eyebrows. And what else? We got mad eyebrows. Oh, I think the yikes could be done there. So if I create a trigger and go mad, mad, and where's yikes? That's kind of got like a gritted mouth thing. Right, so that's all the mouths. I was going to pause this, but some people might find it interesting which expressions I decide to mix and match together. And that's a great thing about all of these. Even though I'm making these expressions, it's like, if anyone has ever heard of like NFTs where people are making like 10,000 of them, the way they do it is they make a select amount of layers, and then by putting enough variation together, you can actually make thousands and thousands of different combinations. And it's not dissimilar with this. You can mix and match all these many times over, different mouths with eyes and eyebrows and different combinations of them, and you can get lots and lots and lots. So these are the general ones I'll go with, but oftentimes using the swap sets, I'll mix and match them as I see fit. Right, so what are we on to now? Eyebrows. Also we got the pupils as well, so we have to bear that in mind. Right eye, left eye. Let's stick with the eyelids first. Right, so let's go with narrow. Whistle. Let's go with the tall eyeball. Smirk. Let's go for a squint. Puzzled. What can we do for puzzled? Oh, let's go for cross-eyed. Sly. We'll go for narrower. Yikes. We'll go for tall again. Small mouth. I'm gonna go for lower eyelids, mid raise. I can't even remember what that one is, so let's go back and have a look. find the mouths where we animated it. Find turn that on. Yeah, it's not a very happy look, is it? I think that's almost a unimpressed look, so I'm going to go for lowering the top. So that'll be, where is it? I think I've mixed myself up there, but I think it's that one, lower. So basically the upper eyelid's lowered down. Sad. Funny enough, I'm going to go with a smile because that brings the eyelids up to where I want them. I could have added an animation where I had a little teardrop. I normally do that. I haven't done it this time, but I might add it later on. Jaw drop is a shocked, but I'm going to go for raise high because I don't want to use the tall eyeball again. Sadder. What else have I got? Let's try the big eyes, or almost like that cutesy, like sad eyes. It might work. It might not work. Oftentimes I'll look at them and then I'll go back and I'll change it out a little bit. Happy. Raise mid. Grin. I think I'm going to go for raise low. Surprise. Let's go eyes front. Smile 1. We'll go for the smile. And smile 2. We'll go for smile higher. And then unhappy. Let's go for, because there's so many. I mean, you could literally unhappy. You could have him closing his eyes and stuff like that, but you don't want that as the default unhappy one. You just want it kind of standard. So I'm just going to go for smile because I know how that will look when all put together. Mad. Now this is where you can go squint more. And that's it. And other ones I normally add in is joy, but I'll do that later on. Have I got the mouths? Yeah, I've got all the mouths. Right, so what I'll do now, like I say, I often add more later on when the ideas come to me for what I need in the animation, or I'll just do them in the timeline. Well, I'll show you in a second. Right, give me a second to. So first of all, what we do now is we need to create a scene for this character. So I'm going to create a new scene. I'm going to turn off the motion capture because it's not set up yet, so it'll look like a mess at the moment, and we only want to test out the triggers. Turn that off. My scene setup is 1920 by 1080, even though the puppet is a lot bigger than that. But what you want to, when you're making your animations in Adobe Character Animator, size it down. I mean, oftentimes I size it down to 720, and then when I'm finished doing the character animation, when I render it, then I resize it up. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to find transform, and I'm going to scale him down to this big. Now, as you can see here, you can see the multiple hands because I've not added a trigger for them. And if I had not put all of these into a trigger, then you'd be seeing all the different layers for that as well. That eyeball needs to be flipped around, that pupil. So if I go into Photoshop, find the pupils, edit, transform, flip horizontal. But we don't want the cross-eyed ones flipped, so we'll put them back. Transform with horizontal. Schneiser. I might have to individually animate the eyeball and that for those ones, because you'll see that when they animate, the light in it that animates into place will be in the wrong spot. You'll see in a second. I'll have to fix that in a bit. Well, I've updated it. In a minute though, when I do some of the animations, you're going to see that it's going to need to be fixed. Anyway, let's just pop this controls down here for the moment. Let's have a look at the individual mouth. Sometimes this is where you spot problems. Like if you look at this first one, there is a wobble. So I need to fix that. So what? Basically, I'm going to have to go through all these. I'll make a note of which one is a problem. So for example, I'm writing down now mouths, and I'm going I'm going to have to go back and see what the problem is there and fix it. Woo. See, that one's got a wobble as well. In fact, I thought this might happen. There might be a couple, not many. It should only be 2 or 3. But the rest of them, I'll have to have a look at that, sort that out. What is happening on all the expression ones? So I've obviously used a default somewhere, so I'm gonna have to take these ones and then go back on all these and make sure it lines up. It's not much work, you know. Like I say, sometimes you don't spot these problems until you got everything working together. But it's definitely on all the expression ones. It's not on that one, so I'll go through in a bit and sort out. It's not on that one. And it's not, so it's only a couple. So I haven't got many. I've got to fix that. So this is a combination of the lip syncs and so sadder. Yeah, it's all. It's just it's the expression. It's the mouth expression where it's just a line. I've obviously used a template for the starting line, which isn't correct. It doesn't match up with the default. That's why we're seeing a wobble there. So I need to fix that. Eyelids. We're seeing that sometimes with that. It's to do with when you render it, you don't see that. It's to do with you know, the zooming in and out of here. But I will go in and adjust that. Oh, I know why that is. Because I flipped the bloody eyeball around on that one. So I need to go in to Photoshop and tap it over. Press save. Like I said, I've said this earlier on. It's a lot of back and forth. Tweaking and nudging and adjusting and fixing. All the little things takes time. And normally I'd just be like racing ahead, but I'm thinking, I'm conscious of all you people watching me, so you know, pressure. You know, I'm trying to get it right and not make too many mistakes is the wrong word. Normally, like I say, it's a lot of trial and error back and forth, and I'm not worrying about, you know, stuff. But here I'm trying to look as professional as possible. That still needs pushing over a little bit. Anyway, I'll come back to that later. You don't need to watch me do that. And those are the eyebrows. And then the jaw, I'll add in later. Actually, I do need a jaw in there. I mean, I'll have to delete the jaw. I don't need to keep it in there, but just for setting up the replays later on, I will need it in. I'll pop that there. back there, go back to perform. Might have to check on that. Seems a bit slow. So let's have a look at the... Oh, and that's the other thing. I need to add these jaws into the mouth, into the full facial expression too. Let's zoom out a bit. That little wobble is really annoying me. I'll go and fix that in a minute. Pause it. And them little lines on the eyes, that's always annoying to see, but I do know that when it's rendered out you won't see that. Need to add some eyelids to that one. Need to add some eyebrows to that one. So anyway, I've got a lot of stuff I've got to tweak. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pause it here, and then when I've got everything fixed, I'll catch you up with where I've gotten to, and then we'll start going into the other bits and bobs, like creating the animations for the bubble and the fin and the tail. Maybe add some dangles in, and also sorting out the parallax, because I think at the moment, if I turn it on, you know, there's a lot of work that needs doing there, and these eyes need fixing as well. So lots to do, but we'll get to that in a bit. Right, I figured out what the problem was with the mouths. I literally had one mouth where the first frame was wrong, and as luck would have it, that was the one frame I picked as a default. So everything else seemed off, and the reason that these ones didn't is because they jump into the vismin quickly because the lip sync, so you don't have that slow ease into it to notice the jarring effect. So if I look on everything now, the mouth should work fine. So let's have a look at them expressions again. Also, in regards to them eyes, where is it? Get test 3 up. You'll see, as I mentioned, when you render out the character, you're not seeing them outlines. So it is just a zooming in issue. You might be thinking that will be a problem when you go live, but it won't, because I'll make sure that the puppet is properly sized so that that issue doesn't arise. So yeah, just a quick update on that. Though saying that, there is one or two little things I still want to tweak. The main one is if I turn on the lip sync, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. Turn that off a second so I can explain. This woo mouth looks very nice and attractive for the expression, but using a similar one for the vismin is too distracting. So look, testing 1 2 3, ooh, testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. I just think it like pops off to the side too much, so I'm just going to adjust it so the woo stays central, and we can keep that just for the expressions. So I just need to update that, and I'm still undecided about this jaw. Testing 1 2 3. I think there's too much move. I might do away with the whole jaw moving. I mean, there'll still be parallax on the jaw, so it's moving around, but it looks a bit too much. Also, I'm gonna have to add it to the to these as well, and I want them to move around more, and I don't want another parallax on that because it's going to be draining on the power. It's just going to cause a whole bunch of issues, and overall I don't even think it looks that great. So I'm just going to take off the jaw effect. So, you know, it was alright that I kept it on. I got to show you lot how it works. Now you can apply it, and it can work great in some characters, but for this particular character I've decided I don't want to use it. I might change my mind later on, probably not, but for now I'm going to take it off. Right, so I've tweaked the woo shape, so I've still got this one for the fancy facial expressions, but I've got this one for the lip sync, just so it's not so jarring. Even that one going over to the side, it might be okay. Let's test it. Testing, 1 2 3. I haven't took the jaw off yet. I'm definitely taking the jaw off. I don't like it. It works great on a lot of puppets. For this one, I don't think it's going to work, so I'm going to take it off. Testing 1. In fact, I'll do that right now. I am going to well, what I'll do, I'll go to take that off, reposition that up there, and I'm going to get rid of all those, but I'm going to go into Photoshop. In fact, what we need to do here is copy media files into project folder. What that means is going to make a copy of the Photoshop file, and it's going to save it to this save. So anytime we make a new save, each save is going to have its own copy of Photoshop. So if we make big changes and then later on we decide we don't like it, we've always got the original, you know, Photoshop file from before. So I'm going to copy that into here, and then I'm going to select my puppet layer, and I'm going to go to the source material, and it's going to open up its version of the Photoshop file. So the original one will keep its draw folder, but in this one I'm going to delete it. Well, I'm going to delete the animated ones. The default one is going to remain, and I'm going to take off that independence, but I'm going to keep independence on the main one there because I'm going to get that jaw parallaxing around. I'm going to save that, go back into Character Animator. I can get rid of this now because we don't need it anymore. We're going to records. Also, you notice I've zoomed in a little bit, and you know the shadowing on the eyes is disappeared. Right, testing 1 2 3. Testing on 1 2 3. I think that looks a lot cleaner. The jaw action was just a bit too much on this particular character. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Right, let's have a look at some of the expressions. So what one's that? That's his mad face. What one's that there? That is sad. I need to add some eyelids to that one because there is none. And what mouth is that? It moves, it starts too far over here. It needs to start from the middle. So I need to fix that one. In fact, I think that's her. So I will go and fix that in a bit. And this one is small. That needs lids. So I'm just making a note of this. Small, needs lids. And that one is yikes. Needs eyebrows. Yikes. Eyebrows. I don't have to worry about the light moving in that one. And even in that one, I don't think it's too... I'll fix it at some point, but it's not top of my priority at the moment. Yeah, them pupils, I need to get them pupil triggers, they need to be added down here. Now, the reason for that is, if I go into the timeline, delete what I've done before, press record, and I'm just going to hit each of these, so we've got the eyelids, eyebrows, so those are pupils, those are eyelids, those are mouths, and at the top we got expressions. Right, I'm going to press stop, I'm going to go back into the timeline, and now you can see I've got a bunch of swapset bars. So I can get rid of what I recorded, just wipe them out. And now when I go along, I can drop in what I want. So if I want to make my own expression, let's put a grin, and eyebrows, let's put mad, maybe it's like a more evil face. Eyelids, go for squint more. This isn't one that I set up in expressions, and let's see how that looks. Do you know what I mean? You can just mix and match, and then you know you could change that grin to a yikes. How does that look? Well, change it to small, but you know, there's another expression. Where's yikes? It's more of an angry face. Jaw drop. That's more like a shouty face. And then if we change that to shocked, that's more like scared, terrified. You see what I mean? You can just mix and match, and then if you change this one to well, maybe take that one off and make them small. See, you can just mix and match. So it's nice to have. Normally these ones are what I set up for customers so that they've got them ready, but personally when I'm animating, this is how I do it. It's nice to have the expressions to drop in, but most of the time when you're talking, you don't want the mouth going anyway. It's all to do with the eyes and the eyebrows to really emote. So anyway, that's this bit. I think in the next section I'm going to get, well, in the next section we're going to have a look at sorting out the parallax on the face. Right, next we're going to get the parallax set up on this character. So first of all, we've got to add the face behaviour, as I mentioned earlier, to introduce the parallax ability onto each element that I want. The face has already got it added in, which I put on earlier on. The head already has it automatically added. What else have we got? So we need to add it. I want to add it to the body texture, so that has a bit of a move to it. I want to add it to the top fin. I want to add it to the tail. Need to add it to the jaw. No, sorry, the jaw is part of the face. I need to add it to the back, like not eyebrows, but the brows or whatever you call them. So let's get that done. Right. So if we go to torso texture, and I'm going to select head. I'm going to select nose because it's going to be the nose parallax that powers it, and then we're going to add face. I'm going to rename that to mocap torso texture, and then I'm going to turn everything down to 0 apart from the parallax slider. And then what I can do there to save time is copy that behavior, and I can apply it to anything else that I want. So add it to the brows, go edit, paste, and we're going to go rename, and we're going to call that brows. I'm going to add it to the top fin, so we're going to go paste, rename top fin, okay, and the tail, edit, paste. We're going to rename that tail, and also we're going to make sure that each one of these independent layers are connected to the main body. I'm going to add that to there, and then the top fin, I'm going to add that to there, and then I'm going to add some I'm going to have to add draggers to these so that I can animate them later on, as I mentioned in part 1. So top fin, I'm going to put a bone tool down there, and I'm going to add draggable. I should probably add, I was going to add some dangle to add some flow to it. I'm just thinking, I'll come back to that. And the tail, draggable so I can animate it later on. And then let's also get the fins sorted. Draggable, and this fin. Draggable. Right, and I think that's everything done. We'll come back to animating the bubble and everything in a bit. Let's just go into record. Let's zoom out a little bit to 50%. Controls. Them bloody lines show up at this point, don't they? Anyway, right, so I think that fin needs to be further down as well. So if we go to, in fact, I'm going to do this in the main parent in the Photoshop file, because if I do it in Character Animator, every time I update the Photoshop one, it's going to move it again, and it's just going to be a headache, which I don't need. So put that there, move that down there, pop that down like that. Right, now this is the part where we start, you know, tinkering and getting it all to work properly. So turn on the mocap, see what a state you look. Right, first of all, let's turn this eye gaze to mouse and camera, dragger limited. Basically what that does is with the limited, when you know, drag stuff around for the eyes, it's not going to also pull the hands and the other draggers that you got placed about. Right, eyes, take away this snap eye gaze. Now the whole point of this snap eye gaze is that it's supposed to make it more cartoony, so more instead of more fluid. At the moment this is all well over the top. I need to bring this all down. So first of all, let's go to the body, because really I want to bring, you know, the positioning control right down, because I don't want it moving that far around, even though he's going to be kind of floating. So we're going to go to head position strength. If I put that to 0, you can see now he's not moving around at all, other than the parallax, the pivots and whatnot from all the individual parallax layers that we're going to adjust in a bit. So let's just stop dialing this up. 20%. 40%. Yeah, I think 40% might be just a nice amount for him to kind of bob around in his fish tank. Fishbowl. Right, so that's that one done. Let's close all these down. Right, now we are going to do, let's go straight for the main face. Parallax strength. We got tilt on there, which I don't want. Not at the moment anyway. I just want the kind of left and right. Them freckles needs to that's a bit too much, but let's just turn that to 800. Right, I need to get these freckles included in the masking, so let's go back into rig. And where are them freckles? Right, they're in the face. Oh, and I just need it to mask to the jaw. So go to puppet, create clipping mask. And if we go back into record and have a look at it, if you look at the freckles now, you see they disappear when they go out of shot. Right, now the next thing is obviously we want this the brow contour area. You know, they should stay within the middle of the eyebrows. So if we go and find the brows, and then move my head over and then adjust the slider. Oh, that's one thing I haven't done yet. I meant to do this and I forgot about it. I need to find all the areas that's got the mocap on and make sure I've got the head and nose, and I think I missed one of them out. Yeah, brows. I'll make sure I've got the head and the nose added. Go back down, brows, right. So I'm moving my head to its furthest point, and now I'm just adjusting this slider. Maybe I want this face so that I can get him going a bit more. Where is it? I'm just trying to make some decisions about this fish because he's going to need to look at the audience, but he's also got to look at screens that he's referring to. So I don't want to move the whole face to the middle. So, but I need the ability for him to look at the audience and then look at the screen. I'm going to have a play around with that. I'll come back to that in a minute. Anyway, so I also want the fin on top moving a little bit to add that 2.5D effect. So top fin, maybe not as much as the face, just subtly. Just get it moving in and out a little bit. Though I think that is too much, so I'm going to just change that to 500. And then the top fin, also in the negative. I'll probably go back and finesse all this without recording the screen, but I'm just showing you how I'm manipulating each of the different layers, and then like I said, I'll go back, I'll finesse it, and then I'll come back and show you how it looks. And then finally I've got the texture on the body. Keep it a bit subtle, don't want it moving too much. Right, I'm going to go away, I'm going to play around with it, and I'll come back to you in a minute. Quick note, I'm just about to actually, I'm going to move him over a little bit, and then I'm going to hit this icon up here where it goes, basically pushes. So all the, because the thing is, if I was to open up another scene now, all this will go back to the default and you just lose all the settings. So once you have got all the settings how you want it to be, you hit this and it pushes it up and makes all of this the default settings. So when you start a new scene, it's always going to be the same settings. Small little thing, but important to remember. Right, I was going to, first of all, let's have a look at the, you know, I've unpaused it now, I've been tinkering with the settings and whatnot, so let's just have a look at its general motion capture. You'll notice that the tail and the fin is going a bit, got, you know, like physics to it. I've just added them in. Originally, as you might remember, I was going to animate a cycle layer in Character Animator as a replay of it just kind of going back and forth, but I think with the physics added, I don't really need it because it's a bit over the top though at the moment. Well, I think the tail is. I think the tail needs its own physics behaviour so that I can dial it down, because the top one needs to. The top one's already sore. So if we go to tail and add physics, we're going to rename physics tail. Going to record. Oh, you might have noticed I've got my nightgown on. It's very cold here in the UK at the moment, but it is also very late at night, so all the heating's off. So, you know, whilst I'm sat here doing this video for you, I'm wrapping up warm, so forgive me. Right, so let's go and find that tail physics. No, where is it? There we go. Physics tail. At the moment it's got the default on, it's very subtle. It's got some gravity, so I'm going to turn that off because that just drags it down, which is good for some characters and elements and hair and whatnot, but not for a free floaty tail. Also, is that on Wild? Might be better to have it on Hinge. See, when it's welded, it's rooted to that spot, and whereas when it's Hinge, it will rotate around that spot. Sometimes that can be a bad thing, especially if you got gravity added. It'll make the whole tail drop down, but we've taken gravity off, so it shouldn't be an issue. And where has it gone to? Physics tail, dangle effect. That is far too much. I'm going to put it up to 80%. What's happened now? Yeah, that hinge thing might be causing more problems than it's worth. See if I put the gravity on. See, that's what happens. Something is causing an issue there. Right, let's go back, put it back onto Wild. And go back down to physics. That's too much. That doesn't seem to be enough. Let's try 65. I think that might be okay. And then the top, do I need to make that a bit stronger? No, that's too much. That's too much. Maybe 40% was just right then. Anyway, yeah. So it saves me adding on the cycle layer thing, and it keeps a bit of, you know, the processing power down. However, warning, if you put too many physics, so let's say you got a character with loads of, you know, like say dreadlocks, and they've got loads of strands, and you want to put one on each one and give it a bounce. If you have all them dangle points, I mean, that can be okay. What can be an issue though is if, for example, you wanted to add the physics behavior. The more physics behaviors you add, that begins creating lag. You can get away with having a bunch of dangles as long as they're running off of one physics. I've got the two, but I reckon if I was to start adding on more, so adding them to these little fins at the bottom, that might start creeping up and causing issues. Talking of these little ones at the bottom, I'm going to keep these. I'm not going to add dangles on because I'm going to add the dragger. I need to add on the body limo K because we've got this going on at the moment. So going to rig, and we're going to add on limo K, arms only, and here we are going to add shoulder and the right shoulder. You might need a neck for this to work. Let's just check. Yeah, I need to get a neck in there. I can add that onto the face there. Oop. Put that there. Why am I going wrong there? Oop, 1 second. I think the issue is we've not got elbows. Oh, I haven't got them classed as hands either. I might get away with not having to put elbows in. Let's have a look. Oh, he's not doing that. Right, that is independent. Right, I'm going to have to check into this. I'll let you know in a minute. I'm not entirely sure what's causing that. As I've mentioned before, this puppet isn't set up in the normal way because it's not humanoid, so something's going awry. However, I've added elbows to it and it stopped the body contorting when I add the draggers, and the limb OK is still activated, but I do still have this stretch issue. Mind you, that's not a bad thing. I can get some, you know, if I want the character to overstretch his limbs if he's pointing to something, I've got that ability, but you know, it'll still only be working off a replay, so it'll only be what I've set up, so it's no issue whatsoever. Right, so I think that is the parallax set up. The only thing I might change is I want this side to match that side. So give me 2 seconds. Right, so I've just adjusted this just so the contour of it fits a little better. Where's them brows? I think I might want to just adjust the parallax a little bit. Get it more frontal looking. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Like I say, it's going to be in a fishbowl, which is going to be pretty, you know, imagine the fishbowl in Pinocchio, glass round circle thing. It's not going to have that far to go, so I don't want it to. And also, maybe I can tweak the smoothing on this. So let's find the mocap for the body. So smoothing is 15%. Let's pop that up to 40. Just to take the jarring, you know, look, so it doesn't move too much. And maybe I could up the body strength a little bit. Turn that up to 60-ish. That might be too much. What was it on before? 40. So let's just pop it to 45. Pop that to 50. That might be a bit too much. So let's pop that down to 40%. That's the thing. Every character is totally different. It's no, I can't tell you, you know, when you build your character to have it this and this and this and this. I can just show you, you know, the general approach that you take, and it is just a case of adjusting the strength of those sliders, you know, the sensitivity and all that, and then just seeing how your character reacts to it. Am I happy with this? I think so. I'll probably still end up adjusting it more, but you'll be here all night watching me if I do that. So that's 25 minutes I spent on Parallax, but that is, you know, this is what is the Parallax, which gives it its 2.5D effect, which gives it a more advanced look, just so it doesn't look like a still image, and it does look like the face is now, you know, looking around. Also, what I could do, you know, at the moment I've just got this body in this direction. I can add a head turner, so I could set up the whole fish frontally and from the side, so as I turn my head the fish would turn. I mean, I could have him turn all the way around. It'd be, you know, you think of everything I've done now, I'd have to do that all over again for each one, but it's certainly doable. One of the main things with Live 2D, which is the main thing everyone's impressed with, is that, you know, frontally, or, you know, like when it's parallaxing, it has got beautiful parallaxes, but I do find it has a lot of limitations with other things, like for example, like all the with this I can make this character do anything I want, but you do run into limitations I've found with Live 2D when, you know, if you want to do full facial cycle layers and stuff like that, and any other sort of cycle layers. I know you can add them, like I say, it's this is my go-to and I am very happy with it. And yeah, so I've got the parallax added in, so I'm just going to bank this scene and then we'll get on to the last scene. Right, we're almost done. Last of all, we're going to do some of the replays. The replays is Adobe Character Animator's way of making little animations and then saving them, banking them, and then you can use them over and over again. As you saw earlier, I was adding draggers to the fins. I did add draggers here and here, but I've took them off because I don't need them there now. So I'm going to just create some hand gestures. And we're going to get the controls. Oh, hang on, let's go over to these and make sure I've got them on latch. Right, change that to down. Go timeline and whoop. Record 2 frames, zoom in a little bit, one, 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe. I'm gonna go for ease in and out, and I'm gonna right click and I'm gonna create a replay. And I'm just going to test it quickly first, see if I'm happy with it. Yeah, so right, call that double hand gesture. Okay, low. I'm not going to record, you know, all these for you to watch, it'll be boring, but I'll do 1 or 2 more. So go for a mid hand gesture, double hand gesture like that. Timeline 2 frames. Ooh. I want to link recording, so whatever was recorded during that take, it selects all of them automatic, so you don't have to go down and select them one by one. Sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not, so you have to remember to turn it on and off. Be good if you had a shortcut that I could just press the... Right. It looked like it recorded my vocal, which it has done, which I didn't want it to do, so I better turn off this mic. Deselect that. This is what I'm on about. I don't want to deselect everything, so now I've got to turn that off. Select that one individual layer. Whoop. Turn that one off too. Now I can go back and turn it back on. Right click. Delete that one. I'm going to call that double hand gesture mid. Anyway, I'm not going to record all these. I'm going to do one high. In fact, I'll pause it and then you can see what I've done. Right, I've just done a couple. As I tend to make these when I'm animating and making content, and you know, bank them up as I go along. So, but let's have a look. So we've got low double gesture, mid, high, fins to his face, pointing to his right and pointing to his left. Later on I might make some hand shapes, but at the moment, considering he's a fish and he only has little fins. I don't think it's important. Maybe I might add some swimming effects. I don't know. Again, I don't really want to have that cycle layer going on and on, so I might just have them, you know, kind of like that, and the back tail look like it's doing enough, and then, you know, you can be gesturing out. Like I say, you can get really nitpicky about all these things, and you'll perfect it and you'll tweak it. You know, I potentially could be animating with this thing for ages, and I will certainly be updating it as I go along. That said, I am not finished yet because I need to do the bubble. However, I'm just gonna bank this recording for this section, which we will call the dragger replay section, and then yeah, I'll get on to the next bit. Right, one of the very last things I'm going to be doing, I am almost finished. I am going to try animating this bubble that I spoke about so long ago in part 1. So first of all, controls. Actually no, we're going to have to add to the bubble transform so I can manipulate it. So I mean, I could do it with a dragger on it. No, but I need to resize it as well. Right, so transform, rename transform bubble, record, find the bubble here. I'm gonna have to latch it so that it stays on when I click on it. Here we go. Find that transform behavior, because I'm gonna need a couple of the settings keyframed into the timeline. Oh, there it is. Right, so scale, I'm going to need to use that. Opacity, I'm going to need to use that. And X and Y. Right, let's see if we can get this done. Turn it on, and then let's record it so it stays on the timeline. And have the animation run for 2 seconds. I think it'll be long enough. I'm going to turn off triggers so that that doesn't keep disappearing, because while it's active it's not going to stay on. There we go. I'm going to move these anchor points to the beginning. That's the start point, and then the end point we're going to want up here. So I'm adding in a keyframe. So Y position, I'm going to move that up to there. And first of all, let's just see the speed in which it travels. That's alright. Maybe even a little bit slow. Okay. Now let's create some midpoints, because I want the opacity to fade in and fade out. I get to that point, I want it to be nothing, 0, and I want it to start on nothing. Right, let's press play. Okay, now we want to adjust the scale. So I'm going to add in my keyframes here and here. And at the beginning, I'm going to have it at only 20%. And at the end, 20%. So let's see how that looks. Right, what's going on there? Right, that was the problem. The bubble's anchor point is all the way over there, so I need to put that back in the middle, because when it's scaling, it is scaling from that point. And also, we don't have to worry about this bubble being connected to the fish. Right, go back to record. I've just gone back on myself a little bit because I deleted some stuff when I thought it was something else. So let's put that back there. Make sure that's right in the middle properly. Right, now let's have a look. We don't need them. Did that one. We did that one. Right. Right, so in a little bit. And now I think I want to get it moving out a little bit. And let's try adding some ease. So ease out and ease in. Have a look how that looks. And then ease out and ease in. Let's press play on that. And that is it. It looks fine to me. You do have to turn these anchor points, however, into, what is it? Create replay, create take from keyframes. And then we select these. Right click, create a replay and press play. Yep, the trigger's turned off, so I better turn that back on. And this particular trigger, it's not one that we want to keep, like you've got two options. You can stop and sustain, so that means however long, like for the facial expressions, when I've got my finger pressed down on the trigger, that facial expression will hold until I take it off. However, when you've got let replay finished, if I press it, for example on the face one, it will, action play for as long as it was recorded. So in this instance, I want it on replay so that when I hit the trigger, it will play what I've made and then stop. So let's have a look. There you go. Now what I'm going to have to do is duplicate a couple of bubbles, give each of them their own replay, and then I'm going to make and then what I'll do, later on, I can just drop them bubbles in as and when I want them. Whether or not I want them continuous, I'll just keep on dropping them throughout the duration of the timeline. So yeah, you don't need to watch me make all the other bubbles, so just making one bubble is enough for now. So that's it for this part, and just an outro to do. So that's the end of part 2. I hope you found it very interesting. I know this isn't a typical build, but I did go into creating advanced parallax to make your puppet look even more impressive. So I hope you found that interesting. If you have any questions about anything I have covered over the course of this video, just pop a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Right, let's have a quick look at this puppet before I say ta. Right, so have a look through all these expressions. You really need context, Let's have a look. That's him feeling a bit joyful, content, a bit smug. happy, and like I said, there's all different variations so that when I'm animating I've got a load of choices on getting across all them expressions that I want him to be conveying. Got all them eyebrows. So yeah, lots of expressions there. Loads of fun to be had with this character. I know he'll do really well at getting across, you know, whatever emotions I want him to convey. Happy, sad, whatever, mad. I'm sure I'll explore all of them in the future. So that is the end of part 2. Part 3, I'm going to cover getting the background set up, maybe make the scenery interactive. I'm not too sure yet. I haven't 100% decided on what the scenery is going to be, other than the fact it's in a fishbowl. I might even look into explaining how we, you know, stream him live. If you have any questions about anything I've covered, like I say, post them below. If there's anything you'd like me to cover in part 3, definitely get your questions in ASAP, and if I see them in time, I will be more than happy to cover them in part 3. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe so that you can get a notification when part 3 is out, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.